Hello. So let's get right into it, and let's just first of all though have a little listen to a mix for a bit of inspiration. So there's one track in this podcast that I heard that's really sort of got a real minimal feel to it, and you know, if we're doing a Sunwaves video, why not listen to a Sunwaves recording from fairly recently from a rapper. So I'm going to be turning my mic on and off at different points because I want to be hearing my monitors when I'm making music. So let's have a listen to this tune. So I love the glitchiness of it, and I think we can do something similar. And we'll be flicking through that mix at different points just because I like to have a reference of where I'm working. So I'm going to start straight away just by getting a few drum racks in here, and we're going to just do have a kick drum in there for the first track. I'm going to put it to like 1 to 8, and I'm going to, once I've found a kick drum, I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going to get some perks in there as well. We're going to use a little technique that I showed in the tutorial for that. So I'm going to go in for that, and I'm going to add and the instruments, I'm going to add a sampler. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some individual one-shots, so and then split them across the keyboard, and we're going to trigger it through like a sample select LFO trick, which I showed on the video, which is really good for this sort of style. Then we're going to go in and just sort of find ways that we can send things to like little effects chains that's going to give us that glitchiness that we're looking for. So we can send various different things to it, and we want some really cool glitchiness going on. So without further ado, let's get stuck in and find a kick first of all. So I've earmarked these two sample packs. One's called Reminimal Deep, and one's called Roland Cloud Reminimal by Sample Tools. So I'm hoping that there's something in here. I've not had a chance to go through these. These are fairly new, but it's a good place to start for little one-shots and things like that. I'm quite liking that one. We want like a flat sounding acoustic kit or kick almost. So I'm thinking that this might work. Let's just get a pattern in there and see if we can do a few bits to it. Thinking I might add another kick in there as well as like a bit of a double kick. Okay, so we've got a solid just sort of kick pattern in there at the moment. I may go back and change things, I probably will, but I want to just get some perks in there because that's going to be where the real groove's going to be coming from. So I've opened up the zone here, and I'm going to just drag in loads of little one-shots that I like, and we're going to spread it equally across the keyboard, and then we're going to trigger it with an LFO. Okay, so I've got a nice range of samples there. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to go to this select here, right click, and I'm going to go distribute ranges equally. So it's separated them all across the keyboard. Then what I'm going to do is add it into an instrument rack, and then we can have a look at the macros within that. So if I go into MIDI effects, type in instrument rack, this one here, drag it into that, and then we've got macros. Oop, hang on a sec. Right, start a new channel, and then we'll drag perks into the instrument rack, the other channel. There we go. Okay, so we can get rid of this perks channel, and we'll just rename this one here like that because it was being awkward. And yeah, so basically what we're then going to do is we're going to be triggering the sample select with the macros here. So basically, let's get an LFO going. We've got the Slink LFOs. I'm thinking within here, we'll go for an LFO from Ableton. We can map it to this here. And then we can map these macros to whatever sample we want. So yeah, this macro is moving. We then need to go to map, and we're going to just choose this sample select here. Range. Up again, and this, so you can see it's now sweeping through. It's sweeping through pretty quickly, so we want to be slowing that down. We also want it to be synced to the project, and then we need to actually trigger that. So we can turn the map off, and then we can just bring this down a little bit. We need to have some triggers, so let's just get things looping and draw in some notes, and then we will be creating a pattern essentially. So there's certain samples in there that I'm not fully keen on, so I need to find out which ones they are, and then we'll be able to take those out. We can maybe tweak them a little bit. So let's have a look and see what these samples are saying. So I'm just trying to get a pattern that I like the sound of. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to then apply some effects to this so that we've got something a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to have a play with some plugins that are go-tos for me. This Fracture's pretty nice. So I'm liking some of the sounds that's coming out of that. I'm just experimenting with it, really. I'm not thinking that that's going to work as a main percussion loop. I'm just going to probably record that in to a separate channel like this as a full wet signal, and then we can potentially use it as an extra layer and knock the timing off slightly. So it's all just about experimenting at this stage and just coming up with a nice little loop that's interesting. So I'm really liking that. So this is how we get these little accidents that are happening, and we'll resample that. So I'm going to go in and just quantize this, and then we'll listen to it and see if we can get it to fit with the groove. So there's certain parts I don't like, so I could go into the envelopes and change the clip gain and take out those notes. I'm going to do that. So there's a nice little texture layer. It's sounding a little bit more interesting now. I'm applying some processing to it. I'm going to keep going with the processing until I find a place that works for me, and I'm going to keep then adding in percussion and things like that and treating it differently. So it's nice with the feedback to add some variation. So I'm going to do that across the space of maybe 16 bars, so that as the track progresses, it's going to be different every time. So if I go into the automation here, I go into the H delay and I just draw in some feedback modulation, some feedback automation, should I say, then we're going to get some movement in the way that the delay works. So essentially what we've done is we've just created our own texture by just sampling some perks that have been randomly selected, processing them, and then just creating some difference in the automation. So I'm going to keep building the perks as we go, and we'll just keep adding extra layers. I'm liking the sound of that, so I'm going to add some reverb to that as well, and then we're going to get some automation being sent to, maybe we'll use an LFO and send it to a grain delay as well, which works really well for this sort of glitchy percussion. Just for the groove, I'm going to get a bit of a, well, not a bit of a clap, I'm going to get a clap in there. So let's have a look at some nice samples. I want it to be really organic and minimal sounding. So I'm going to sort of at points send the get like a grain delay on there. Send certain things to this grain delay on like a return, maybe just like a spray or something like that. So let's have a listen to all that. So I'm liking that sound. So what we can do is at points we can send it to the grain delay like this towards the end of bars and things like that. But also we can then add some different automation onto the grain delay underneath, which is then going to give us a slightly different sound when these things happen, like this for example. Let's just have a listen to that. Cool. So basically with this style of music, what you're trying to do is you've not got many elements going on, but the elements that are there have got movement and they're changing often so that it keeps things interesting. So these are just some little tricks that you can use that's going to do that. So again, we could go in here, we could push the frequency up and down like this so that every time that it hits those claps, the claps hit that grain delay, it's going to do something differently. And then of course we could also send other things to it, like this percussion here and the hats and just any kind of synth that we then add. So there's one element I'm really not sold on, and that's the main kick. So I'm going to go back in and find something that's got a bit more clout to it, because that is a bit flat for me. So I'm just gonna stop that. I'm gonna just apply a little bit of processing to this to bring it out in the mix slightly. So I'm gonna use the micro shift, which you'll have seen me use quite a lot from Sound Toys, just to give it a bit of stereo width. So I think we've got a solid groove there straight away. I want to add a few more perks in there, but I'm going to sort of have these as sequence perks. So I'm going to go in and just experiment with some of the reactor groove boxes and things like that. finding some nice glitchiness like that, and I really like that actually. So let's see if we can get some more movement in that. So I'm going to add even more processing onto this channel here as well. So I'm going to add a little bit of reverb after the grain delay, so that when it hits the grain delay, we've also got this reverb, which will sound pretty nice, I think. But it's just, I mean, I'm not, there's no rules here. I've never really done this. I'm just experimenting, so. Okay, nice. So this is what we've got so far. And that's before we've even got a bass line in. So let's see if we can get a lovely round bass line in. So being as we've got Reactor open, maybe we can find something in FM8 actually, but we want something nice and round, I think. So it might not be the right synth, but let's experiment. So for some inspiration, I'm going to listen to the mix again. So I'm liking that one that I've sequenced. So I'm going to just record that MIDI in underneath. And we'll just keep going, see if we can find some other patterns. But just before we lose that one, let's just see. Let's get it recorded in anyway. Now let's keep going with randomizing some patterns. So I think I'm pretty sold on that original pattern, to be honest. So what we'll do is we'll just get that in there, we'll turn the sting off, and let's have a listen to how it's sounding. I'm really liking that. I'm liking that bass sound that we've got in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if we can then get that into some sort of melodic vibe. So I'm going to carry over the MIDI. I'm going to carry over this minor scalar, but I'm going to pitch it up a little bit, and we're going to nudge the notes across just so we're coming up with something a little bit different. So pitch it up 2 octaves, and then let's do this. See how this works, but with a different sound. Okay, so we're starting to piece together a bit of an arrangement. We've got like this little section here that's like a bit of a breakdown essentially. And I'm just going to keep adding elements really and just seeing where it goes. I feel like these samples are a little bit too cheesy, really. We don't want anything like that. We want some nice, classy one-shots. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to actually open up Omnisphere. I'm going to try and get some nice little textures going on. But in order to do that, we need to know what key we're in. Luckily, I've synthesized. I've actually sent a minor to a minor scalar in here. I mind blank then. So we're in D sharp minor basically. So I know that we can then start playing with chords that are in D sharp minor. So let's keep building. So just building more and more layers really. What's great about Omnisphere is you can choose this mood, and I feel as though some of the ARPs that I was just experimenting with then were a little bit too bright, a little bit too happy. We wanted something a little bit darker to go with the style of the tune that we're making here. Even though it is quite upbeat, I feel like we don't want anything to add in anything too melodic. So let's see how these little presets work. Quite like that. Need to get it in key. Drag that on there. Also, I think we could get away pitching it down a bit. Get a filter to sweep through it to give it a bit of a, like with an LFO on here. See how that sounds? and then have it talking to this maybe, so it's more like that. So you've got this synth and that one with the bass line. How's that going to sound? Okay, so I think we've got loads of elements down there so far. I've got the basic idea down. There's certain things I'm not too sold on, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to round off part 1 here, and we're going to pick this up in part 2, where we're going to be taking this track to the next level. We'll be arranging it out, we'll be mixing it down, we'll be adding a few more elements, the lot. But let me know what you think of this track so far, and hopefully it's been useful. Let's have a listen to where we're at before we just wrap it up. Nice one, guys. I will see you in part 2.